In the late 20th century, the South African population consisted of 4.5 million white people who occupied 87% of South African land, which is contrasted by 19 million Africans who occupied only a mere 13% of land. It was at this time of great disparity of land, wealth, and human rights that William Kentridge grew up. It is a time known as apartheid. William Kentridge was born in Johannesburg, South Africa in 1955. His parents were attorneys who represented marginalized African populations, which undoubtedly motivated him to create works of art that empathized with Native Africans. As seen throughout my selected piece, Kentridge creates characters and utilizes parallelism to expose the heinous mistreatment of Africans in this time. He has degrees in political science, African studies, mime, theater, and fine arts. His eclectic education is prevalent in all of his works, which encompass several disciplines. I will continue to refer to Kentridge's piece as palimpsest. Palimpsest is a technique used historically by Western European scholars as a means to scrape clean and reuse manuscripts that have previously been used for writing. However, this process leaves behind what is known informally as underwriting, which is a slight ghosting of the previous piece as seen in the current slide. I will use the same term, ghosting, to describe a similar outcome in Kentridge's work. Elizabeth Manchester eloquently describes his technique. She explains, each drawing, which contains a single scene, is successively altered through erasing and redrawing and photographed in 16 or 35mm film at each stage of its evolution. Kentridge employs this technique in his typical medium of charcoal and pastel on paper. This unique confluence of modern technology and an archaic recycling process brings life to the themes that Kentridge wishes to unveil. To further develop the historical context, apartheid Africa was ruled by the Nationalist Party, which is made up of white men and women who are of Dutch colonialist descent, called Afrikaners. Their emergence in this area came in the 17th and 18th century when they colonized these regions in interest of trade. These historical details are reoccurring in the 9-part series of short animations that I selected for my analysis, and are the origin of conflict in this region. This series is titled 9 Drawings for Projection and was organized following the completion of the 9 short films by Kentridge in 2005. Out of the 9-part series, I selected the 5th short film titled Felix in Exile. Nandi, one of the prominent characters in the animation, is a female surveyor who is African, and the other prominent character in the film is Felix, who is a white businessman that has a striking resemblance to Kentridge. Kentridge has implied in interviews that he slowly began to recognize that he was portraying his opinion of apartheid through Felix, which explains the subtle similarity and consistently sympathetic nature of his character. Felix in Exile exemplifies the use of line, movement, and contrast to create and portray the themes intended by Kentridge. The first use of line is to create a sense of depth. The uses of converging lines in the far corner and the compounding element of contrast seen in the shading of the adjacent walls and floor provide the audience with the illusion of 3 dimensions. Also, the one-point perspective in the various objects in the room, such as the bed, also creates a sense of depth. Another use of line is prevalent in the emphasis of emotion. The line seen throughout the film is short, deliberate, and sharp, which portrays the serious and solemn truth about this historical time. However, in this second still, you can see that the lines drawn by Kentridge are darker and more severe, which explains why the ghosting of the erased image is more prevalent. Kentridge intentionally illustrates this by means to create a more potent feeling of sorrow for this specific moment in the animation, which is fitting because this scene depicts the murder of Nandi, presumably because of community conflict. The element line is also seen in the sight lines of the characters throughout the animation. In this still, Nandi stares into the heavens, which is symbolic of a cry for help or need of salvation. Nandi is looking to escape from the horrid images that she finds as she first surveys the land in South Africa. By manipulating line, Kentridge is able to create the illusion of depth and distinguish scene-specific emotions.